Today we are going to be doing fry bread or bannock and Pickle Lake moose tacos.
Me and my buddy left end of September. We had a cow and a bull tag for C1, which is north of Pickle Lake. We were about 150 miles north of Pickle Lake is where we were actually camped. We spent a week there. We seen caribou. I got some nice pictures of some woodland caribou. Yeah, we got a nice bull first of the week. We planned on going in for 2 weeks because it's such a long drive. It's 26 hours. So yeah, we got a nice bull there. A 2.5-year-old moose. So he dressed around 530 pounds of just meat. So he'd weigh over 1,000 pounds, you know, live. Moose is it's really, really good. It's you know, just as good as any beef. So I cut my moose basically the same as I would cut a beef up. Like, I mean, you got your steaks just like a beef, right down to your T-bone sirloins, all your rump roasts and stuff. Now I kept most of my hamburger per se, and I haven't made it yet, but I'll make sausage out of it. I'll get a pig, and to add some moisture to it because they're very lean, and yeah, it'll be a fun day of making sausage as well.
Not bad. It's a front quarter of a moose, and what we're going to do is we're just going to chop her up. This is all your pot roast mostly. You got your prime rib here, you got your blade roast, you got your short rib, your cross rib, your shoulder roast, your brisket, and your shank. The shank is more for hamburger, along with the brisket plate, and the others are like pot roasts, right? And your prime rib, everybody loves prime rib.
I think she's doing something with this. I hope she's doing something with this fire because I got her going for her. But she's got the grinder in there, so she's either going to make up some kind of a hamburgery patty or something to do with that, I'm sure. And because I did see the grinder in there, so we'll have to wait and see. You can always get more from somebody that knows a little bit more about cooking and how to prepare this wild stuff and make it better for us, the hunters and sportsmen.
So moose, being a game animal, is very low in fat. It is a wanderer and it's a forager. They are herbivores, so their meat is it's extremely tender meat if it's cooked properly. And what that means is that it has to be, usually it's a 2 cooking method where you sear it off and then you use it in sort of like a braised liquid. And that's sort of the traditional way that you would prepare moose. Today we're going to be taking a little bit different take on that, and we're going to be making tacos with bannock fry bread. And just sort of to make it just a little bit more consumer friendly, I thought maybe that would be a fun thing to do. And we're going to do that by cooking it all on an open campfire. So what we're going to do first is that we're going to make bannock. And so bannock is essentially, it's just an unleavened bread. It comes from Scotland, actually. We actually really think it comes from or believe that it comes from the indigenous people. And but bannock actually was brought over from Scotland, and it's a Gaelic word for bannock, and that's where we got bannock from. So this is a Cree recipe from Western Canada, and it's a very, very sort of simple recipe. So we're going to add 6 cups of flour, and then we're going to add 3 tablespoons of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of salt. I'm going to put the 6 cups of flour in. And here we have 3 tablespoons of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of salt. And so just with a fork, I'm just going to sift these ingredients so that they're combined really well. And as soon as we've done that, what you can do is that you can make a well in the bottom of your flour. We're going to add 3 cups of warm water. So you just add a little bit of water into the well at a time. Take your fork and just combine it. And bring it all together until it's combined. So you just continue to do the same thing and add a little bit of water at a time. A little bit more water. And then combine it together with a fork. So you don't need a beater or any electrical machines or anything like that for this. You just a fork and a bowl. And once it comes together, we'll drop it out on the surface. So you lightly flour the surface of your cutting board. Okay, so now that you've mixed the flour, it's in like a soft dough form. Okay, so we're just going to now let it rest for about 45 minutes. So here what we have is we've got some lovely moose meat. And as you can see, again, like there's very, very little fat in this, right? It's a very, very lean meat, very, very dark red meat. It's very, very tasty. So what we're going to do with this is that we're going to put it into the grinder. So I'm going to put it into chunks, just rough chunks. And why we're going to grind this is because essentially I want a ground so that we can do like a taco topping with it. It doesn't matter essentially what particular cut of meat that you do use for this. You don't want to use like, you know, your prime cuts. So you don't want to use any of your steak cuts or your tenderloins or anything like that. But any other type of meat is just perfect for this. So what we're going to do now is I'm just going to add just a little bit of olive oil. Just a little rough. We don't want it we don't want to make a paste. So just like a hamburger mixture. So now that we've got our grind, we're going to season this. So again, we're going to add some salt. This is just a blend of seasonings. Whatever seasoning that you're comfortable with or that you like to season with, a lot of hunters have their own special rubs that they like to use. And this is just a little bit of smoked paprika. So again, you just want to combine this. Get all those seasonings through the meat. And now this is going to be ready to take to the fire. So what we want to do here, the meat's already been seasoned. So we're just wanting now to cook it through. Because it is a ground, there's all kinds of surface area on the meat. So that means that there's more room for microorganisms to grow. So definitely when you're using a ground meat, that you should take it to well done. So there shouldn't be any pink in here. So because the moose meat is really lean, you might have to add a little bit of extra fat. So you can use duck fat, this is a bit of lard, or you can use butter with a little bit of canola oil. It's really amazing like how low fat that is because there's very, very little liquid on the bottom of this pan. So now what we're going to do is that now we've got our bannock. We just let it sit there for about 40-45 minutes. So now it's at room temperature and it's just nice and soft and supple, and that's how it should be. This is going to be, we're going to make this for a savory dish because we're making moose tacos. But if you wanted to, you could also make this a sweet dish. And so what you can do with that is that you could add sultanas or currants or dried wild blueberries or any kind of sort of dried fruit that you have, and you can add that to the dough. And then once you flatten it out and make your flat bread, then you can dust it with brown sugar and or maple syrup. But for this, what we're going to do is, again, we're going to do a savory one, so it's just going to be just the bannock. So I'm just going to cut this in half here, or almost, for our fry bread here. And so if your dough is a little sticky, trick is just to make sure that you lightly flour your hands and also the rolling pin. So what we're going to do again is that we're just going to do like, we want it sort of flat style tacos, probably about like a 1/4 inch thickness, just like that. Let's take this to the fire. Okay, so right now what we've got lard in here, so we've got about a cup of lard. And so we've just melted it down, and it's just starting to bubble and crack now, so it should be hot enough. But there's a little trick you can use, and you just take a little piece of your bannock, or you can take a little bit of flour, and just throw it in here. And if it starts to sizzle, then it's hot enough. So you can see it now, and it's just starting to sizzle there. So that should be hot enough that we can start putting our bannock in. There you go. And that's just the perfect amount of oil. You don't want to have too much because once that gets hot and it reacts with the moisture in the bread, then the oil's going to rise up and it would come up over the edge of your frying pan. And bannock is something too that you make ahead of time, you know, and you can just take this with you when you are hunting, and you can just fry it up on the trail. Okay, so what we have now is that we've got our nice fried bannock, hot off the cast iron pan on the wood fire, and so now what we're going to do is that we're going to now use our nicely ground moose meat that we've already got seasoned. So we're going to start with that. Awesome. That smells so good. So now what I'm going to do is we've got some toppings here. This is pico de gallo. And pico de gallo is just chopped tomatoes. It's got a little bit of jalapeno, some onion, and lime juice. So it's just sort of like it's a Mexican salsa. So we'll put some of that on here. And we'll put on a little bit of arugula, which has got a peppery component to it. And we'll add a couple of sliced jalapenos. Some nicely sliced fresh red radish. And now we'll just take a nice old Ontario cheddar, just grate it on top. Add a dollop of sour cream or crema. So what I've done with the sour cream actually is I've just juiced half a lemon and I've mixed it with the sour cream. We'll just put that on top. And this is just a little bit of coriander. And we'll put that on the top. So there you have your fry bread or bannock and Pickle Lake moose taco.
I've had moose a lot of ways, but I've never had a taco, but it looks awesome. She put it on bannock, which is so cool. I haven't had it in years. I'm sure, if I remember, that it's not much to make, so us trappers, hunters can do that in the bush, put it on the fire, so it looks awesome. So we're gonna give her a go and see how it is.
That's perfect. Very good.